Yeah, hi there, and these comments are for someone at Quora, and you asked a question, and I am Michael Buckoff, the founder, owner, and the materials writer for all of your lessons at the 7-Step System to Pass a TOEFL IBT. And your question is very simple. How can I prepare for TOEFL in 1 week and score 100? So you took the GRE last week, you scored 147 in verbal. You say you're planning to take the TOEFL after 10 days. How can I prepare for it? So it's a tough question. I honestly don't know what the 147 in the verbal means. But if assuming that your TOEFL score right now is around 95, right? Maybe 95 to 100 approximately. You're already close to your goal, right? You just need 4 or 5 more points. It might be possible to get 100 after 10 days, but normally, if your previous TOEFL exam were at least 15 or 20 points lower than 100, then I would say it's really not possible to make that kind of improvement in just 10 days. And the other person here at Quora, I kind of agree with him. He says, 1 week is just a cursory glance, and he's saying that it's just not a lot of time to prepare to get a high score, right? But if you only had 10 days, and assuming that you're already really advanced in your English skills, here's what I would do. I will give you my honest advice here. Okay, number one, I would take an independent and integrated writing practice test. If you're one of my students, I would tell you to submit the essay for me so I can error correct it. So I would read your independent writing practice test that you completed. I would do an error correction video. I would go over every possible problem with the essay. I would show you what your current score is, and then what you need to do to get 30 points out of 30. So I would do an error correction video. I would point out any problems with your organization. I would point out any problems with development and any problems relating to your language use, your vocabulary, your grammar, any of those kinds of things, right? And then, once I did the diagnostic, I think, of your essay, I would then recommend specific lessons in either the writing, the grammar, or the vocabulary part of my course that you can review in order to get better. So depending on what kinds of problems you're having, though, it might not be possible to reach that goal in just 10 days. For example, if after reading your essay I notice you have a lot of problems with word choice, sentence structure, punctuation, and grammar, and you have problems throughout the essay, it's going to take longer than 10 days to solve those problems. So I don't really know what I can tell you until I see what your writing is like. But I would advise you to have one of your essays error corrected, an independent writing practice test. Now, the second thing, I would also encourage you to have an integrated writing practice test error corrected. I would do the same thing. I would read your essay, I would rewrite it, tell you everything that's wrong, what you need to do to get 30 points out of 30. I would send you that video for you to review. And then once you get the error correction advice from both the independent and integrated writing, then you can do a little bit more study. You can complete maybe 3 or 4 more practice tests, and hopefully you will have solved all the problems you need to solve to get 25 points or higher on the writing. That's my first piece of advice for you. Now, number 2. Because you also have speaking on the TOEFL exam, I would advise you immediately to start sending me speaking practice tests again. I have to see what kinds of problems you're experiencing or having with speaking, and that also tells me whether you can easily solve these problems in a short period of time. So let me give you an example. If I notice when you're doing a speaking practice test, in addition to having maybe some language use issues, which means grammar and vocabulary issues, if you're having some serious problems with delivery, you might have problems with, for example, intonation. You could have problems with thought groups and blending. Or worse, you could have some problems pronouncing the basic vowel and consonant sounds of English. So if you're having some of those problems, it will be tough, but that would be my job. Part of my job would be to tell you when you do the speaking practice test exactly what is it about you that's keeping your score below 25 or 26 points on speaking. Does that make sense? So you would get some initial advice from me on the speaking. Then I would tell you to keep completing maybe 6 or 7 more speaking practice tests over the next 10 days. So hopefully you can solve any of those speaking and writing problems that you have. So that's one thing that you'd have to do. So those are either the speaking and the writing practice you want to start immediately. Now the next thing, let's talk about reading and writing. So again, there's not a lot you can do in 10 days. So my advice for you would be is to take maybe using a Cambridge, maybe the Cambridge preparation course for the TOEFL by Jolene and Robert Gere. You might take some of the reading and the listening practice tests there. Now when you do the practice test, you want to make sure that you go over the practice test, paying particular attention to the questions, obviously, that you missed, and then you have to review why you missed those certain questions. And I would encourage you to review all the reading and the listening question types and the specific strategies for answering those questions. And over the next 10 days, I would advise you to continue to take practice tests in the reading and the listening sections to help build your confidence in those areas and also give you a chance to analyze the kinds of mistakes you're making. So hopefully, over that 10-day period, you should be able to solve some of the language issues that you're having and hopefully reach your goal. But like I said in the beginning of the video, if your English skills aren't already advanced, there's no sense in trying to prepare for the TOEFL in just 10 days. So it's probably not a realistic thing, right? So I'm just telling you. All right, so those are my answers to your questions. So how you can prepare for the TOEFL in 1 week and score 100.